So London did not work out.
No, didn't work out.
And the Civil War came.
Yes.
Your family had to leave Nigeria.
Yes.
You went back to Sierra Leone.
Yes.
And you were in Sierra Leone throughout the war period. And you returned to Nigeria.
Yes.
What was it like in Sierra Leone during the war period?
Well, when we arrived in Sierra Leone, you know, my mother's father met us we went by boat, Oriel. It was a big ship, you know, and we stayed in my grandfather's house, 45 Wellington Street, Freetown. But my mother couldn't get a job in Freetown. She got a job in a place about 300 miles from Freetown in Kenema. They had it was called Forest Industries. So we moved to Kenema. I think Kenema was good for us because they gave her a colonial house. You know those colonial houses, they have one very big room and then one small room. I don't know if the typical colonial houses. So the older brother had the one room and the rest of us stayed in the other room. And we had a very big compound. It was really big compound. We had very exciting, we had a good church. We went to a Methodist church. The only problem was my mother was working, and then sometimes we got into trouble. I mean, particularly my older brother and sister, we had less supervision. So there was even a day my siblings went to a swimming pool. You know, it was God that saved them because they couldn't swim, and they were about to go into the pool. And luckily, it was an isolated pool. Somebody came and drove them away. You know, so we were in Kenema for, I think, about 2 years. And then my mother wanted to move closer. She was also worried about the level of this educational standard. So then we moved back to Freetown. But in all this, we always attended Catholic schools. And it was when we were in Kenema that my mother got news that my daddy had been killed, although it wasn't certain. One of his brothers wrote her a letter that they got news that my daddy was executed. And so my mother, I don't know when she got the letter. Okay, so my mother called us together and she said, "Oh, Daddy has gone to." We prayed. She prayed with us, and then said, "Daddy has gone to be with Jesus." Coincidentally, we're told that I can't really remember, but I'm told my elder brother jumped up, like really excited.
That's Daily Banjo.
Yes, he was happy. You know, because we had been hearing that Jesus is a good. May the Lord have mercy. You know. So, and, but later on, years after, my mom was telling us she was not sleeping at night. And she said she would just be moving up and down in the night. Lord, how am I going to manage? Lord, how am I going, Lord, how, because she was totally confused.
With 4
Yes,
children.
4 children, very young. And like I said, even before my father was in prison, she had not walked out of the home. She was a homemaker.
Even your father didn't want her to work.
Yes, he kept, even when she was working, he kept sending messages in his letters that why is she working, and that if it's too much for her, that he has enough in his savings.
Yeah.
He kind of, I think my father was an unusual man. He really wanted her to spend time with the children. And he kept also mentioning that he didn't want our care to be affected. And I think he realized the importance of, that to really get, I'm a psychiatrist, I say promotes the mental health of children, that it takes time. You need quality and quantity time. So that a mother at home, and in many cultures now, in many parts of the world, like in Finland, places like that, you can take up to 5 years leave when you have children. And you the first 1 year, they will even pay you full salary. And then after that, depending on how long we want to take, they negotiate something with you. And when you want to return back to your job is waiting for you. Because those societies understand the importance of the formative years. It's not easy. You have a 6-week baby, you're going to drop the baby in daycare. Can you compare that, a place where there are multiple handlers, many children, infections, to when a child is at home? For example, myself, I was breastfed for 13 months. I never used a feeding bottle. I went straight from breast milk, weaned off gradually, and I was using cup and spoon. So I think he saw the impact on his children. And I must thank God, because my siblings were all very stable. True. All of us. It's God's grace. Let me acknowledge God, first of all. God's mercy, God's grace. Our mother really tried. We are all, and of course with the grace of God, we are all stable.
She stayed with the children.
Oh yes. Even resisted attempts for what I would call extended fostering. She insisted. I remember, she was Creole. Say, even if not Gary with it, they left me picking to nobody. That even if I'm eating Gary, we're drinking, that I'm not leaving my children to nobody. She looked after us. And if you want to offend my mother, you touch her children. Right through school. I remember even at times when I was in primary or secondary school, let anybody try me. My mother won't take it from you. She was I just wanted to go back to this Mr. Cross issue.
Okay.
Because I noticed another letter my father wrote, which one of the early letters, where he began to suspect that Mr. Cross may not be loyal. And he says in this, My Darling Wife, there's no date. It's over 3 weeks now since I wrote my last letter. I've not received a reply. I know it's not your fault. I'm sure if you could, you would write every day. It will seem, after all, that you perhaps do not know where I'm being incarcerated, and no one has the humanity or courage to tell you. The theory is that I'm in a very safe, protective custody, even from family and friends, exclamation. I know it sounds ridiculous, and so on. Then he says, I believe you have not left Nigeria. I hope you have not run into any difficulties. The arrangements I made were quite full, and I do not think Cross will let me down. However, if he has done, it will be perfectly human. One only knows his real friends when he has difficulties. So you can see that he began, one of the things I noticed about my dad was his ability to assess human nature.
He was so philosophical.
Oh, yes.
The way he understood issues and represented them in letters.
Yes.
He says, please give my love to the children and tell them that Daddy will soon be out to see them in the UK. I am sure they will all be very excited in any case. Please do not forget to warn their school that they will not be coming back next term. He did not come back.
No, he didn't.
But he was so positive here.
I noticed that, actually. I noticed that right through, he kept, even the letters he wrote, because he also wrote his children letters. I have letters written directly to myself, where he would say, Dear Yinka, or, there's one of them, he said, okay. This is 11th of December, 1966. Hello, Yinks. He actually wrote to each. He wrote and he altered his writing based on our age. So like for my sister, he wrote, My dear Funto, I like your photographs very much. They are very nice. So his writing was more much. And then Dele one was a bit, My dear Dele, I hope you are very well and behaving like a good boy. And so on. Then he says, Hello, Yinks. My dear girl, you have grown very big. I like your photographs. They are very nice. I hope you take care of Yemi. Be a good girl. Enjoy yourself at Christmas. If I am free, I will come to enjoy Christmas with you. Bye-bye. So, your loving daddy. right through, and even at a point, and there were some things that I noticed about my dad. It was, first of all, very passionate about wanting to serve. One of the things that frustrated him a lot when he was in prison was the fact that he was not able to be of service to his country. But the other thing is like what you have pointed out. He kept telling my mother that he would surely come out. I don't know, maybe he
But he came out.
He did.
He came out of prison.
He did.
He came out and fought the war.
Yes, he did.
So he was out.
He was out.
When he came out, he did look for his wife and children.
That area is hazy. The last letter I have from my dad is the letter of just before we left. I think we left Nigeria around the 4th of July. The last letter I have here is 2nd of July 1967. And in that letter, he said, "Darling, I've already posted one letter to you about having received your letter, and the arrangements I'm making for you to receive money to go to Freetown with. I note that you have now made up your mind to leave immediately, and I quite agree with you. Much as it breaks my heart, I cannot prolong the agony of you and the children in that horrible place. But as I said before, please wait to receive the money or arrange with your bank to forward it to Freetown." I don't know if she ever received the money. "I believe you, however, need to obtain permission," and so on and so forth. That's one of the, then he said here, "When you get to Freetown, you may address my letters either to P.O. Box 5 Asaba or P.O. Box 2534 Lagos." At this point in time, my father was out. It appeared he had come out.
Yes, because by this time, Ojukwu had declared Biafra on the 30th of May, 1967.
Yes.
So by this time, Victor Banjo was already out.
Yes. There's another letter here, which, on the 28th of June, in which he wrote, because my mother at that time, I think she was fed up, and he was talking again about making plans. But, this is where he said, "My darling, please," I'm reading towards the end, "do not let yourself or the children suffer materially because of all this while I can help it. You have suffered enough emotionally as it is. Please wait for the money and ensure everything is properly organized before you leave. Please look after yourselves in Freetown and try not to let the children suffer too much from the disruption of this period. I hope you will for some time take a rest and forget about working until you're all fully adjusted to the new situation. Please do not let the children pass through too many hands. Try and stay with them as much as you can to give them a sense of stability and security. Please try as much as possible to give them the kind of life to which they are accustomed. I know you do your best." And then he went on to write this hymn. "May God be with you till we meet again. 'Neath his wings protecting, hide, daily manna still provide you. And when life's perils thick confound you, put his arms unfailing round you. Keep love's banner floating over you. Smite all threatening waves before you." I also wonder at this point in time, and that's the truth, that he could have run away. But
Ademoyega said Victor Banjo was revolutionary. Perhaps he saw an opportunity. What do you think?
I think so. And right through, you could see he was ambivalent. In the early part of the crisis, he felt like resigning. But I think after being in prison for a while, reflecting, I'm actually convinced that my father believed very much that he had a role to play in the restoration of this nation. That if he felt that running away was not an option, that he should stay and be part of the building of this land. And if you read his letters, you could see that even when he was in prison, if you look at the letter that he wrote to Ironsi, he actually commended him towards the end. I don't know if you noticed. He said, I hope you are able to meet with success. And then even when Yakubu Gowon took over, at several letters he wrote, if you look at them many, many times, he would keep, kind of saying, I hope success meets you.
Gowon did not release him. Yes. Why?
I don't know. Yakubu Gowon, General Yakubu Gowon is still alive. He's in a position to respond. I mean, my father wrote him several letters. Even my mother wrote him several letters. And aside from that, he was in a position to help us. I mean, this is a letter I have from my mother, written 31st May 1972. Mrs. T.J. Banjo, and then His Excellency General Yakubu Gowon, head of the Federal Military Government of Nigeria, Dodan Barracks, Obanlede, Lagos. Dear General Gowon, I'm kindly reminding His Excellency that I wrote a letter to His Excellency on February 16, 1971, and requested the following. 1. Return of Victor Banjo's safe, removed from 21B Cooper Road, Ikoyi, to His Excellency's presence, in His Excellency's presence, on Monday, 17 January 1966. In the safe were the following articles, including A. 2 life insurance policies, B. the baptismal, academic, and marriage certificates of the family, C. land papers, D. money. That's the first one, return of Victor Banjo. Then number 2, widow's pension. Number 3, education of our 4 children. 4, return of Victor's cars. A. Mercedes-Benz VAL 720, B. MG Magnet 004548. Then 5, Victor's death certificate. Then 6, a job with accommodation. I've sent several reminders, both verbal and written, through major members of the army to His Excellency, but I've not received a reply. I intimated His Excellency during the interview of February 16, 1971, of the deplorable plight of the children and myself. And Your Excellency asked me to put the request into writing, which I did on the 16th February 1971. The children and I have continued to suffer. In fact, things are getting worse, and I'm appealing to His Excellency to help the family of a soldier who was forcibly taken to the former Eastern Nigeria and who was executed because he wanted an end to the war. Yours sincerely, Mrs. T.J. Banjo. That's my mother.
Gowon did not reply that letter.
He never replied the letter. And as a Christian, because, at a point, respectfully, I know he's an elder statesman. I know he was leading a prayer, praying for Nigeria. I don't know if you're aware of it. And, one of the things that, because I'm a Christian myself, and one thing I know as a Christian, the 2 people that God wants us to reach to, widows and orphans, fatherless children. He was in his power to help my mother. My mother didn't do anything. And General Gowon also knows, my father didn't do anything. If he has done anything, let them say what my father did.
Perhaps Gowon was thinking at that time he fought on the side of Biafra.
He fought. Who put him in prison in Biafra? On the east. They took him to Ikotipene. From Ikotipene, he was taken to Enugu. And when the war broke out, he was in Enugu. It was Ojukwu that released him. And he and Ojukwu were friends. But they've given other people who, I mean, respectfully too, because I have to be, Ojukwu, when he returned to the country, 1983, he had a hero's welcome. When he died, he had a national burial. And I know that, many others, even those who are in the Biafran army, they were fully restored. My father is still, to today, I'm grateful to God. I don't need, as the point in which I am now, God has been good to me. Very good to me. God has been really merciful. Really merciful. I can't even start to count the blessings that flowed in my life. But my father wanted, read his thoughts. Even when the Igbos were being massacred in the north, he spoke against it. I remember there's a place where he meant well for this nation. He's a statesman. Somebody that you, as a daughter, you'll be proud of. A man of, he spoke about so many things. He's, a man of integrity, a man of character, a man who loved his nation, a man who saw things from a global perspective. And I'm not surprised, because even if you look at his early childhood, even though he was born in Djibouti, his early childhood was in Cameroon. That is not the Cameroonian side that was still part of Nigeria. He also went to school in Benue. All his friends from across the country. He was a nationalist.
His father moved from places to places.
Yes.
Setting up colonial posts.
Yes, posts. And father even married my mom. My mom was so it was not a closed person. He thought very broadly. And he really wanted Nigeria to succeed. It's quite glaring. And he really felt he had what it takes to be a part of building this nation.
Has the family investigated while he was executed in Biafra?
Where do we start our investigation? You mean my mother? My mother struggled till she died. It was a struggle for her. And, even herself, she never had closure. Many times, I remember once one of her friends, the husband died. And I didn't know how much my mother was hurt until when the woman was crying. My mother said to her, at least you are able to attend the funeral of your husband. You understand what I'm saying? This woman never was able to mourn her husband. She doesn't know where her husband remains are. She doesn't have a death certificate. So even if she wanted to claim my father's things, for anything you need death certificate. My father went to work and was arrested. Where is he? At least there should be some communication from his place of work. A letter, you understand, saying, okay, he was arrested, he was put here, and then we received information that he was executed. Oh yeah, take death. We don't even have a death certificate. I'm grateful.
You don't know where he was buried?
No, I don't know where he was. We don't know where he was buried. Don't know where he's buried.
Did you try to reach Ojukwu after the war?
Well, after the war, Ojukwu was in was it Cote d'Ivoire?
Yes, Cote d'Ivoire.
Yes, and when he returned, he was a big man. He got a hero's welcome back, a national funeral. And although when I published this book, I'm very grateful to the booksellers, most of the books, because they were the publishers. And basically, I was just going to publish my dad's letters alone, because these are his letters of it when he was in prison. But then they asked that I should write, a kind of prologue and epilogue, But when we were going to launch the book, I sent an invitation by registered mail. I invited both Gowon and Ojukwu. I did. And the honest truth is that for me as an individual, I don't have any negative feelings about any of them.
You don't?
No. I'm a Christian. I've forgiven. The fact that what they did was wrong is different. I mean, I recognize what they did, but I don't have any negative feelings. Personally, for my dad, I don't even need anything from anybody, but his name. At least we should know about him, get a death certificate, and have some degree of closure.
But do you know why he was executed?
Only from what I read.
What did you read?
No, I mean, there were different accounts. But what we were told was he was accused of being a saboteur. And there was a kangaroo court. The first one that tried him did not find him guilty. The second one found him guilty. And that it was a rushed. In fact, I was told that within a few hours of his execution that Enugu fell. And he was executed along with other, Ifejuna and a couple others.
Victor Banjo was executed alongside Philip Alele, Sam Agba, and Emmanuel Ifejuna. Now, you must have read about Victor Banjo's failed trip to Ore. You've read that?
Yes, I did.
The Ore battle. When you read that story, how do you feel?
Well, in terms of him not moving into Yoruba land,
yes.
I personally feel he took a right decision. You don't move into somebody's territory without their wanting you there. I think he made the right decision. He made the right decision. He got to a point. He's a Yoruba man. And the army he was taking, from his book and from the others who were close to him, who spoke to him at that time, he wanted the Southwest liberated. But the Southwest has to want to be liberated. And I know very much he spoke against certain groups in the country of dominating others. And he was not happy about that. And he spoke against also, if you look at this on the 14th of November 1966, even was saying, I still stand by unadulterated justice to all, even to my enemies. I stand by truth, honor, loyalty, integrity, rulership by law and by consent. Nothing that has happened or ever will happen will ever make me condone or fail to condemn unequivocally the exercise of arbitrary vengeance. Vengeance belongs to God alone. He was talking about the massacres. He spoke out his mind.
He was sympathetic to Nzogu.
Yes.
He wanted Nzogu to be part of the Ronsi government.
Yes. And he got, in terms of going and taking troops through Yoruba land, he wasn't going to do that.
But that was against the order of the head of state of Biafra. Because by this time, he had captured Benin. Victor Banjo had captured Benin. And now he was leading his troop towards Ore to capture Lagos. That was the order from the head of state.
Whatever occurred, my father made a right decision. Even when he captured Benin, if you read his address, when he got there, he said what? His first words were, fellow Nigerians. I don't know if you have the full text. I think it may be in a break in silence by Professor Ogunshe. He actually, he got there and made an address and he said, fellow Nigerians. he was for one Nigeria, fellow Nigerians. And he didn't allow any looting or any misbehaviors from his soldiers, looting of central bank. I'm told he was under pressure to do things that were negative. If you read again his letters to Ironsi, you will see that he believed very much in gentleman's agreement. He believed very much in being honorable. He believed very much in keeping to your word. And, you know, some of the things that he said actually it was clear that because his advice was not heeded to, there were consequences. And I'm reading again from his letter to Ironsi, written on the 1st of June 1966. Number 8, this is the last paragraph. He says, I'm glad to note that you and my colleagues are succeeding in restoring the nation onto an even keel in spite of the great difficulties. He was commending them from prison. I am proud of your efforts and of belonging to the service that is accepting so much responsibility. I'm also proud to have contributed some small part to starting off the national military government. My greatest regret, amongst others at this moment, is that I'm denied the opportunity of serving my country during one of its moments of great need in my lifetime, as a result of the efforts of a few unworthy officers. I hope that success continues to attend your efforts. History abounds of numerous examples of military coups, some of which have brought in their train hardship, loss of freedom, injustices, assassinations, bloodshed, and chaos. As a result of the rapacity, jealousy, and unbridled ambition of a few army officers, others have brought stability, prosperity, justice, and real freedoms as a result of the wisdom, dedication, honesty, and discipline of its army officers. It is an inevitable law of nature that the former pattern always only succeeds in destroying itself eventually. After so many years of callous betrayal by its leaders, I believe Nigeria deserves stability for a change. Yours very sincerely, Lieutenant Colonel V.A. Banjo.
He still had that same philosophy.
Oh, yes.
As Biafran fighter.
Yes.
That was the contradiction. Don't you think so?
Oh, well, he was for one Nigeria.
Fighting for Biafra. An enclave that had declared independence out of Nigeria. Was that not a contradiction?
I'm going to read, if I can get it, because he wrote to my mother after Ojukwu declared Biafra, and he mentioned that he was not in agreement with that. It is not something that he hid. I don't think he did not hide it from anyone. He did not hide it at all. I'm trying to see if I can find that place, but he mentioned it quite clearly. Yes, let me read it. 7th of June.
What page are you reading from?
I'm reading from page 230. 230.
Okay.
The letter is 7th June 1967. Okay. There had been a break in writing, and then my father wrote, "My darling Tai, we are back to letter writing again. I hope you have not been unduly worried, my darling, because of the loss of contact. My plans were rather overtaken by events. I never approved of the idea of my friend here declaring a separate state. But one cannot always control the behavior of one's friends. Everyone is entitled to his own opinion on any issue. And in political as well as military situations, the final test of sagacity is in eventual success or failure. So my father did not hide his views.
Now, as a student of politics,
Yes.
it was clear to me after reading this book
Yes.
that this was a soldier with a strong, independent mind.
Yes.
Even the decision to join the army was his decision.
Yes.
He didn't carry his parents
Oh,
along.
No. And getting married too.
He's an independent-minded person.
Yes.
And we clearly saw that in Biafra. He had his own idea of the situation.
Yes.
But what kept me wondering was, why did Victor Banjo return to Biafra after the fade or a mission? Because at that point, he should have just moved into Yoruba land. And he returned to Biafra, and that was the end. He kept saying, my friend, I never approved of the idea of my friend. Ojukwu was his friend.
Yes.
Perhaps he didn't believe Ojukwu was going to go that far.
Oh, no. No.
Because Ojukwu was his friend.
Yes. I mean, right through the, if you read his letters, he many times would, mention, it was clear that Ojukwu was a friend. He felt Ojukwu was his friend. And he believed in, I don't think he knew that Ojukwu would kill him, would order his execution. It or maybe he just felt if he ran away, because I noticed that even when he was being shot, he was, I'm not dead yet. I'm not, very courageous and bold. And I think that he was somebody that wouldn't run away. He felt running away would show betrayal. And he still had the best interest of Nigeria at heart.
Not Biafra.
Well, he didn't want what was happening to the Igbos. He spoke against it several times.
Yes, he did.
He did. So he absolutely did not approve of what was happening to the Igbos. He spoke out. It wasn't a hidden thing. He many times, spoke out and, he didn't agree with the kinds of things that were happening to them. And I think that was clear that he was somebody that really cared about Nigeria. I'm just reading from another of his letters written on 3rd of February 1967. And he said here, it has always been a source of great sorrow and amazement to me that of all the friends and relationships which have made all these years, there's not one single one loyal enough to me and honest enough to be outraged by the treatment that has been meted out to me and courageous enough to insist on ending it immediately. So even at some points, he questioned, he said, even the one person, apart from the late Brigadier Sam Ademulegun, whom I could have sworn was a real friend, Emeka Ojukwu, who knows my worth, and to whom even during this period of crisis, I have demonstrated that worth so accurately. Even he who always had the power to insist on my release, even when Ironsi was there, and lately even has the power to release me himself and invite me to his side to serve our country, whose fate we had for so many years commiserated together. Even he is content to leave me here and ignore me. Could they all be afraid of me? I mean, he was talking about some, this is Swan was a real friend.
I haven't read his letters. I haven't studied the coup. I think perhaps they were all right to be scared of him. Because this was an intense officer. You can see his letters. You can see the details. A man who would write that volume of letter to his wife, and when you read them, you can say this is the Victor Banjo Philosophical School of Politics. He had a vision of what society should be like. He had a vision of how to raise a child.
Yes.
And that speaks volume of a visionary leader. The vision of how to raise a child. The vision of family. I could see that clearly in his letters. A vision of family. They should be scared of him. And if you read Why We Struck, the different mentions by Ademoyega tells the kind of person he was. When Ademoyega visited, what did he say about Victor Banjo? Oh,
absolutely. I mean, he spoke very highly of my dad. He also mentioned my dad's virtues as a leader, because they were younger, that he had the ability to gather people and get them to believe in him. So he had that strength of a leader. And I suspect maybe that was one of the reasons why they wanted him out. Because a lot of the younger soldiers really looked up to him and believed in him as somebody that was capable, somebody that had vision and had a clear mission. And I suspect that those were some of the reasons why they wanted him behind bars. Because even I I live in a world of politics myself. And one thing I know is that people, when you have a mind of your own, you know where you're going, you know where you want, and you have a big vision. Many people don't like it. They're rather the wobbly person who is unstable, who they can push around, and who they can get things. People don't like somebody who's, say you have a straight vision. You are looking ahead. You have a mind of your own. They rather have somebody they can control. And the truth is, my dad was not somebody that you could kick around. Many times I look at the letters and I think to myself, other person who was in prison would just keep quiet and be crying. You understand?
He was even motivating them outside prison.
And they will be begging to be released. But not my dad. My dad was in prison, but he was still speaking the truth. He was sending, in fact, I was amazed at, he actually wanted to write his memoirs. He wanted to keep a diary. In one of the letters, he was telling my mom that he wanted to keep a diary and use the opportunity to write his memoirs. But that because they were censoring everything he was writing, he stopped. He didn't go on with that vision. This was somebody who was in prison, sending for books on French, sending on books on Napoleon, on the French Revolution. You understand?
He was a revolutionary.
I know. But so he was using the opportunity to improve himself and grow in preparation for what was ahead.
Perhaps he was planning ahead. Because men of knowledge who gather knowledge in such a way can be systematic. Perhaps he had this vision he was seeing, and those outside were also saying it.
Yeah.
The Victor Banjo story. You see, Victor Banjo's sister also wrote a book about her brother, and it's one of the classics on Nigerian history. A Break in the Silence. Sequins, Lieutenant Colonel Victor Adebukola Banjo, a book written by Adetun Ogunshe, Victor Banjo's sister. This book is about Victor Banjo. You know, he also came from a family of educated persons. His father went to school.
Yes. And
your auntie, Professor Ogunshe, wrote a book. Tell me about this book and your auntie.
Well, you had mentioned, they were very privileged in terms of education because their father was educated. Although I could see that from some of the information I got was that he had issues with some of his colonial masters, because it was not like a go boy kind of thing. He had a mind of his own. And I think the family too were very privileged because they were very bright. I mean, Professor Ogunshe is like the first female in Africa to go to Cambridge. My father's elder brother was the first deputy Nigerian indigenous director of ECN. And I don't know if you noticed, there was some issue about ECN and my father's company, UNENDU, at some point. And that was why my father wrote a second letter to Ironsi, because they started persecuting his elder brother. And so they were very well read. That had a lot of opportunities, scholarships to excel. And in her book, basically, she was putting first of all, she spoke about the family, the background of the family, coming from, warriors, and also there were some suggestions that we also had some royalty, and so on and so forth. But basically, in her book, she was trying to put the record straight about my father, mentioning the decisions he took, why he took them. And I know one of I believe in that book is published his address in Benin, when he got to Benin, where he addressed, and he really spoke about his views. I don't know if I should have brought a copy of I have a copy. Fellow Nigerians, allaying everybody's fears that, look, we're not here to cause chaos. We are here to, bring peace, one Nigeria, and so on and so forth. So basically, she was just there. I mean, and then I think she also had some information that she received because I know she visited my father when he was in prison with her husband. By the way, Professor Ogunshe was a socialist. He was very much into unions and labor issues. I don't know if you were, yes. And I know they visited my father at a point, and they were able to understand what he was experiencing and going through. So I think basically that was what she really wanted to bring to the fore. My father's innocence. I don't know, because Mr. Obilo, I really, up to today, I don't know if we have any substantive information about the crime committed by my father.
If you read Madiebo's book, he accused your father of joining Ifajuna and Co. to plan a coup to topple Ojukwu as the head of state of Biafra. They wanted, he talked about Victor Banjo coming to see him in his office, where the idea was sold. He talked about Ifajuna and Co. coming, So he is even convinced that there was a plan to overthrow Ojukwu by Ifajuna, the same guys who plotted the 15 January 1966 coup. That is the story told by Madiebo in his book. And there are different versions.
The beauty of my father's book, which was published 40 years after he died or he was killed, is that it's his own book. You know, and that's what makes it more powerful than any other written information about the war and about his thoughts. The best thoughts you can get from a person are what they have communicated themselves. And that is what is most powerful. And with regards to committing a coup or toppling, there's no evidence. But what the evidence I had is that my father did not agree that Biafra should secede. And he wrote it in a letter to my mother. So, and it was right through his thoughts. He was always for one Nigeria. He was a nationalist. You know, there was a letter he wrote. I'm just trying to, which I actually quoted in my
inaugural lecture.
Yes, where he mentioned that he didn't want anything to interfere with our nationalistic instincts for our fatherland. Oh yes.
He wanted patriotic children.
Yes. He wanted patriotic children.
I gave that instruction to your mom.
He said, I want my children raised as Nigerians. Those I want to raise why my mother brought us back. We could have gone to the UK. Many families have left. But she brought us back. And she let us know, your father wanted you raised as Nigerians. To love your country. I love my country. Oh yes, there are problems in this land, but I think reading my father's book, his vision, his understanding, I'm also very patriotic. Yes, I'm very patriotic.
Proud of your achievement.
Yes, I'm very patriotic. I believe that Nigeria has what it takes to be a great country. We just need to get the right leaders and the right followership. You know, over the years, we have been broken and scattered, but I believe that. And you know, another thing is, when I was studying nations, you don't need a nation. You know, I notice many people are saying that Nigeria is not a nation. That's not what, a nation is not a constellation of people speaking the same language. No. What are the great nations in this? United Kingdom, United States of America, even France. A constellation of people with varying languages, varying religion, coming together for a common purpose, to build together. You understand? So all this one of Igbo nation, Yoruba nation, Jebu nation, that's not what a nation is people coming together. If you read some of the early writings on nationhood, how great nations were built, it was people who came together and had a common purpose and a common vision. There's hope for Nigeria. And I believe it, yes. All we need to do, because I find that the average Nigerian is first and foremost a Yoruba, or an Igbo, or a Shekiri, or Hausa, or whatever, before they are a Nigerian. Their allegiance is more to their ethnic group.
Perhaps that is who we are.
How come the United States of America was able to bring in people from Ireland, Poland, Russia, England, everywhere, and you find that they are one of the most patriotic people? Because
they defined it in words and in spirit in the American Constitution. So you are an American. And there's one goal. Nigeria has not been able to do that.
Why? What is stopping us? What is stopping us? The point I'm driving is that, you know, but the other thing is that when a group is dominating or feels, and I'm just talking generally now, that they are the ones that should always be in leadership, it affects the balance. in a nation, and some of the nations that I mentioned have to watch it, because when certain things start to happen and certain people start to feel ostracized or vulnerable, then there could be problems will start. But when a great nation, when you bring everybody to the field and everybody knows that I can have a little bit of that cake or this field, you understand what I'm saying? That nobody is superior. We are all working together. You can make a lot. This nation is great. Potentially. There's nothing we don't have in this land. Absolutely. Talk about human resource. And the beauty is that we are even youth. We are young. 60% of Nigerians are below the age of 25.
But are we learning from history?
Well, for many years, they removed history from the books.
Are we learning from the lives of the like of Victor Banjo?
Well, I'm hoping that at some point, I'm learning. I'm still learning from my father's work. Son, it's a real great work. I'm still learning. He tackled different subjects. He tackled mental health. He also tackled religion. Because I was looking at a time when my mother said, I think she told him we were attending a Sunday school, St. Saviour's. And he now told her his own idea of Christianity. That he wants us, that Christianity is a way of life. You follow the tenets of that religion. It reflects in your life. In one of the letters. He also spoke at a point about the average Nigerian male. I don't know if you read that. That's, disloyal. He also spoke on leadership. How a nation will always flow downstream. But that it is left for the leaders to carve the pathway so that the nation can flow on a right course. He tackled family life, the child rearing. It tackled, even he gave my mother a whole lecture on how to treat in-laws.
He was a philosopher king. See what he wrote here. To my wife, I want for every drop of bitter tears that you have shed this year for me, 1,000 moments of joy and sweetness. For every second of poignant, anxious pain, 1,000 seconds of boundless happiness. I want to surround you with protective towers of love and be for you at once 1,000 warriors to fight for you unto death. Your daddy was too romantic.
Yes, he was.
Your mommy must have loved him dearly. Because even reading the words, I just sometimes, okay, somebody should read this to me, as if Victor Banjo is speaking to me. I also want to live for you, because I know that is the only way to make you really happy. Victor Banjo, 1st January 1967. This is obviously a New Year message.
Yes.
Expressing love. Do men still express such love to their wives?
Well, many times when I give out this book, I say to people, I said, you want to enhance your romantic, because we women, that's what we like to hear. Is the truth. Oh, these are the kinds of things that really, and when you express that kind of love as a man, it actually makes you vulnerable. And I think that's where a lot of men have difficulty with expressing, because they feel if they express this depth of love, that it puts them in a vulnerable position. But it doesn't. It's a sustainer. It sustains beyond death. These letters are live and living, and they can inject freshness into, I know my mother must have read them over and over again. I read them over and over again, and I get fresh insights. So I think it's the way the average, maybe the African man is raised, that, if you express all these kinds of things to your wife or to, that you may take advantage.
Should I say that the Victor Banjos were even lucky compared to someone like Sholakbe Ademulegun? She was 6. She witnessed her mother being shot, her daddy being shot, and there was no mother to take care of her and her brother. When you consider her story, what goes through your mind?
Complete devastation. I feel so privileged. I'm so privileged. I honestly don't know how Sister Sholakbe and her brother coped. In fact, when I look back now as a child and adolescent mental health professional, I think they should have had therapy at that early stage to be able to go through and overcome what they experience. And then they should have been kept in a place where they had love and security. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So the trauma was just multiplying. Because there are some kinds of trauma that a child will witness. It actually changes the architecture of the brain. It affects the child. And they would have, emotional problems off and on and on and on. And I think that we need to be conscious of it in this nation. Because they went through excruciating trauma. And I don't know if they can recover. Because the right measures were not put in place to really help them recover. Very, very, very sadly. And there's no amount of monetary compensation, that can bring back what they lost that night. We were lucky. We were and I think one of the prayers my mother used to pray was that God should spare her life until we were grown. I remember her because I know there was always a fear that she would die. I noticed that. She was very worried of death. And particularly somebody like her who lost her own mother when she was 5 months. So I remember when her first child, my sister, turned 21, my mother was very relieved. At least one of us was an adult. Oh yes. And I know that my mother resisted all attempts by anybody to share us out, which is a common practice. Because there were attempts to share us. You go here, you go here, you go here. It is a common practice in our culture. When a man dies, the family want to help. And they share the children out to relatives. But many times the children don't turn out right. It's very traumatic for them. But God was merciful. My mother refused. And I think because of what she experienced as a child, she was raised by a stepmother. She knew the consequences of not being raised by a mother. Her own mother. So she held on to us. Despite all attempts for her to let go of us, she said no. I was even I don't know if it's right, but I was told at the time, she was told, you can return to your country. Just leave the children with us. And she said, no, I know they left me picking to nobody. I'm not leaving my child to anybody. And it really helped us because we had one constant person. We may not have had money. We may not have had, there were times in the house where we ran out of money. There was no food or things like that. I even tell people when I was entering medical school, I had short hair. I cut my hair. Not because I wanted to cut my hair, but because my mother I couldn't afford to palm my hair. In medical school, I had virtually no books. I used to loan books from friends. And I think it helped me because if I knew I had limited time. So I would loan a book, read it, make my own notes. So I had loads of exercise books because we couldn't afford it.
Professor Omigbodun went through that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
This Professor Omigbodun?
Oh, yes.
Former provost of the College of Medicine?
Yes, I had virtually no books, no textbooks. In fact, I actually came first in a subject. I came first in physiology in my whole medical class. which is, and I remember my mother was so happy because she thought these are the things that make me happy, because I didn't have books, but I loaned books from people. So I had to be disciplined, because when you have somebody say, okay, you can take my book for 2 weeks, but return it, because we couldn't afford books. Even dresses. When I entered medical school, we used to do matriculation in those days. Every girl, they don't do it. We used to wear white. They used to white. I don't know if you knew in UI, girls on matric, we wear white dresses. All my friends went to town to buy dresses, but I went home to my mom, and I remember then she had an old white dress, very old. I suspect maybe my dad bought it for her, but it was a big for me. So I took it, I so decided, went to buy lace, put it at the bottom. That's what I used for my matriculation. I wouldn't go and ask her for clothes but she used to pray for me. She used to pray for me, because I never demanded things she could not afford. She would say, Yinka, there's no dress you will want to buy for yourself in the future you won't be able to buy. Although I'm not into fashion. I'm not. There's no country in this world you will not go. Because I identified with my mother as a widow. We didn't, ideally, despite, I would have expected the army should have put us on, at least for all his worth, should have put us on scholarship. Well, our father was a soldier now.
They thought perhaps he fought for Biafra.
Wasn't he in the Nigerian army up to a point? Wasn't it the same army that arrested him and put him in the east?
Your father was not Ademulegun, who was killed on duty. Perhaps the reason the army did not look in your direction.
No problem. God looks in our direction.
You just talked about dress.
Yes.
A gift.
Of sequins.
How did this title come about?
Yes. When my parents lost their first child. He was born on the 5th of May, 1959. He died soon after birth. My mother was so down and depressed because he had multiple miscarriages. They married in 1956, by the way. So this was their first child in 59, like 3 years after. And the child died. So my father went to the shop and bought the most expensive dress he could see. And that dress is a gift of sequins. It has pink dress with sequins all over. So the dress has a great history. When my sister turned 21, she wore the dress for her 21st birthday. And she has the photos. When I turned 21, I wore that same dress on my 21st birthday. And when my daughter, who is now Dr. Olayinka Omigbodun, she finished last year her PhD from Cambridge, and she's married to a Ghanaian. When she was graduating from Harvard, because she got a full scholarship to go to Harvard University, she wore that gift of sequins dress. The dress is still there. It's waiting for my granddaughter.
Who is keeping the dress?
I'm the one keeping the dress. So that was why we thought to ourselves, Daddy gave us a gift. There are many people. I was once talking to one of my cousins, and she was telling me, our own daddy lived long. But you guys are lucky. She said, I don't know my daddy. I didn't know him. She was telling me. She said, your daddy left when you were young, but you know your dad. A gift through his letters, of love letters to my mother in French and in English. We got to know what our daddy stood for, how he wanted us to be cared for, what his values were. And I think it's a real gift. And apart from that, he bought expensive things that would last generations. One of them is the dress. Another one is some oyster pearls he bought in the Far East. Real pure pearls. And Another one is a fur coat that my mother had, which my sister has used. Just that it's very heavy now, to carry. It's a very heavy coat. So he also liked classy things. I don't know how much of if socialists or Marxists like classy things. My father had two Mercedes-Benz cars. He bought my mother a sports car on her 33rd birthday. I wrote it in the book. He called her to the window. She looked outside, and there was a brand new tear rubber. We didn't use tear rubber in that day. Brand new Renault Caravelle with a convertible roof. It had a hard red roof and another roof, and then you could also remove the roof. That was the person my father was.
Was it that Victor Banjo was already rich at that age?
Well, my father was enterprising, and apart from being, he was an engineer.
Yeah.
So apart from being there, he employed an Italian manager to manage his company, Union Engineering. So he had an engineering company that he was, running.
We have talked about Victor Banjo. Read more about Banjo. Understand the ideals of Banjo. His ideas are well captured in his book. Look at the book here. I recommend this book to you. Understand him. To understand a man, you must understand his thinking, especially when it is written. That gives you the opportunity to walk down the lane with history. This is the story of Victor Banjo, epic. Find a copy. Nia Borishade wrote a book entitled Colonel Victor Banjo, A Revolutionary Betrayed. Have you read this? I've interviewed him. So if you scroll down the channel, you will find the interview with Nia Borishade. The title of that interview on the channel is Colonel Victor Banjo, A Revolutionary Betrayed. I recommend this book to you. Victor Banjo's sister wrote a book about her brother, Professor Adetun Ogunshe. She's 99 now, right?
Yes.
A Break in the Silence. Lieutenant Colonel Victor Adebukola Banjo. This is classic. Get a copy. The trouble started after the coup. After the January 15, 1966 coup. That was when Victor Banjo's troubles started in the Nigerian army. And one of the planners and executioners of that coup is Adewale Ademoyega. He wrote a book, Why We Struck, the story of the first Nigerian coup. I recommend this book to you too. Here is an inaugural lecture, and this is the first inaugural lecture I am recommending on this show. I've never recommended an inaugural lecture, but I'm convinced, even before reading the inaugural lecture, I am convinced that we need to read it. Because when I saw the topic, I said, okay, there's something about this topic. Our children's mental health, our nation's wealth. Inaugural lecture by the daughter of Victor Banjo. Look at it. A recent lecture. Get a copy and read it. Professor Olayinka Omigbodun, thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
Thank you very much. It's we've been speaking now for many hours.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.